Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely nothing wrong happened behind the scenes. Everything is fine and shiny, and I have Mike McNeil here. We're about to go to the Q&A, but first Mike wants to say some things about the app.
Cool. So yeah, dug around a little bit. I had some interesting experiences getting the phone number hooked up with Twitter, and also kind of figuring out whether you had to check the box that said allow login with Twitter. Funnily enough, I think you have to check the box. So lesson learned anyways, just to run through really quick, fast forward as I was dinking around here. Log in with Twitter, you can sign in, you come back, welcome, and there you go. That's the thing. I'll fix this in the repo afterwards and get it hooked up with a Twitter account that we can all share that hopefully won't get me banned from Twitter forever. So,
all right.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put what I have in the system right now at the current state that it's in, and we'll move on to Q&A. So if you have any questions that you really want to see answered right now, please star them. I know some of you is getting late where you are in the world, so definitely please put them on there so we can see them in the UI here.
As a part of the nothing went wrong, just put them on the chat right now. It's fine. If you want, start them, of course. Also, you can send these questions to Twitter. I'm going to be checking Twitter as well. If you see on the bottom part of Mike's face, it's his Twitter handle, Mike R. McNeil. Just send the questions through Twitter or through the note system on the right side of the chat, and we're going to be answering them. I have a whole bunch of notes and questions right here ready to be asked. But at the same time, I think there's something else that you wanted to tell them, right?
Definitely. So I wanted to show you guys a little something I put together earlier before the course. And I'm going to copy and paste in some code for you in a second. But what we've been working on, in the rest of the core sales team and myself, is a project to allow easier development of sales apps, right? And if you followed what we've been doing with the Node Machine project, it's out in the it's been out in the wild for a while, and the goal is kind of to take what we've done with blueprints for generating REST APIs and apply that to like everything in backend development, because you shouldn't have to write backend code at all, right? And that's the future. Whether it's going to be us or someone else or a group of people, I think it's likely to be all of us kind of working together to achieve this. So we're going to have to crowdsource this problem, right? And that's what this project's about. So I want to show you what's up here. So this is a very, almost exactly the same app as what we did just now, but in Treeline. This is Treeline. Treeline is a tool that lets you build sales apps kind of automatically through the use of routes, models, and machines, kind of like you just saw today. So you can see here's some routes. Here's just kind of going down the thing route. There's some models, thing, and user, and you'll recognize some of these attributes. So you can actually build these in the UI. There's, in our routes, the cool part about this is when you open one of these up, instead of getting code, what you get is this circuit, right? And if you look at what we were doing, and we were building asynchronous code, everything that you do in code, you can actually build using this kind of declarative tree, right? So this is get access token. We get that from Twitter. We provide the consumer key, the consumer secret, and then we use these OAuth token, OAuth verifier things that came from the URL for the Twitter sent us, the parameters. We get the user profile. That gives us all this crazy stuff. You get the user using the access token's screen name, and then we log in. We either log in as the user or we create the user for the first time and then save that in the session. And then you can see we pass some stuff back. So this is kind of what I was thinking with a second ago. If you look at the usage sidebar here, you can see that there's two parameters, OAuth token, OAuth verifier, and then two potential responses when a new user signs up or when an existing user logs in. and you can kind of see exactly what happens. In this case, it redirects back to the home page. So that's what we've been working on. It's I think it's going to be really awesome for the framework and for sales. And what this does is it compiles a sales app. So when you're done, right? Like let's say maybe you want to do a few more changes and you go and you make a custom code. Like maybe you can't do exactly what you need, so you make like I don't know. Let's say like we don't have a modulo machine yet, right? So you might have wondered why there's so many like obscure machines like concat, right, out there, and that's because this is like get the remainder of two numbers. And the reason why is because any machine on nomachine.org or out in the wild is drag and droppable in Treeline, right? So you can take anything that you see here, and right now I think there's about 150 or 169, and CloudFront, CoinDesk, the Fred Government Data API, GitHub, Heroku, Mailgun, Mandrill, MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB. URLs, util has like all kinds of stuff in here. That's all drag and droppable. If you don't have one of the ones you need so far, you can go in here and actually just build it in the UI, right? So that's most of it. If you're interested in trying this out, we just started a developer preview. You can go to treeline.io and enter your email address right there. Right, wherever it is, and then or use your GitHub username. And I'm really excited to talk about it, and would love to see some of you guys try it out and get some feedback from you. So it's again treeline.io, and just sign up and we'll let you in.
All right, so just go right now. It takes less than a minute. So go to treeline.io, put your email, and you're in. I've been seeing the development of this system for a while, and it's an impressive thing to see. Really, really, really great. And it's up to you guys to use it whenever you want. All right, so ready to go to questions?
Let's do it.
We can also answer questions about Treeline if you have any questions. So let's go for questions about Sailsjs or questions about Treeline. If you had any kind of questions regarding Sailsjs, this is the best time to ask them. You have the core team right here to ask anything you want. All right, almost anything you want. First question that I'm seeing here, it's from Made by Mark, CA. He's asking, I don't know how to ask this, but it would be nice to get a bit more information about integrating with Angular, Ember, or Backbone. I mean, is there any special or specific thing that you have to do to integrate Sailsjs with front-end MVC frameworks?
So I think that you saw just now what we did with Angular. A lot of the thing about front-end frameworks is they're pretty open-ended as far as how you structure your files, right? Because at the end of the day, they get like imported in different ways. So the way that you set up your front end is kind of up to you. I would say definitely stay tuned here. I anticipate we'll do some more things like this because it's fun and I think it's great. There's also a GitHub repo out there, which I'll post the link to. It's, I believe, you can see the completed version under my account, I believe. Or let's just search it, Mike McNeil, Activity Overlord 2.0. And if you ever saw the original Sailscasts, Earl Nathan went and started redoing them with Angular just to have a complete explanation. Globe Getters here. I'd love to see one of these for Ember. I think it'd be awesome. He's actually done a bunch of really cool examples. But Activity Overlord 2 Preview is the complete version of an app that I did with Earl that is a real-time presence application. So it tells you, it has login, sign up with password, I don't think it has forgot password, but it has, it encrypts the password, stores in the database, and then in real time keeps track of presence to see whether you're logged in. So it kind of does the away state, where you have like a little green bubble. So that's a full Angular app, and that is probably pretty helpful. Also, the cool thing is Earl has done a series of screencasts on the subject. I think something that'd be really cool is to maybe see if Earl wants to do some screencasts on Platzi, because he's done a bunch of them, and Also, these tools are just like so much better than when you're doing it by yourself. And then it's, you don't have to spend as much time preparing. It's a lot more organic, I think.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Nementon from France is asking, hey, what about dependency injection? And why did you choose Sailsjs for the name of your framework?
So
and that's true. Do you like boats?
Boats. Well, here's the thing about that. So I came from Grails, right? I've never actually, I've dicked around with Rails. I've never used Rails really, right, in production. But I used Grails, and I used Cake PHP, and I used Zend, and I used all these things that were pretty much like the same flavor. And even Rails was kind of based on some principles that were around in kind of the more structured Java frameworks that were coming out around that time, and also Smalltalk. And so like you look at all of the things we could have named it, and it's like between nails and jails, like what is left, right? So the best thing you could think of is like JavaScript Sails, right? So that's the answer to that. As far as dependency injection, you have a lot of different options. So the kind of classic DI that I think about is what Angular does with their require JS-like or AMD-like syntax with a little square bracket thing. I think it'd be cool if Sails supported that in core at some point. I think that for right now, we're trying to stick with how you do things in Node because it's the strongest, like, it's the right idea, right? We exist by the grace of Node and Isaacs, and I want to stick to the way that he likes to do things with require.
All right. This is a very common question. A lot of people have asked it. The last one was Robert R2D2. Is Sails compatible with IOJS?
Cool. Yeah, so IOJS is something that you can swap out with Node, right? And you could think about that kind of like if you have like two different brands of 2% milk that you like to drink. Like IOJS is like the kind of small farm 2% milk that is sitting on the shelf right next to the other 2% milk that's like, I don't know, Daisy or something. And the thing is, they both work with cereal. So that's how I feel about that. If that helps. They're both, yeah, it's absolutely compatible.
That's a super helpful metaphor. I totally got it. It's impressive. Oleinikov, it's asking, any tips on deployment automation?
Yeah, so I have used for free stuff, I use Travis CI. I haven't used it for paid stuff just because I didn't have a deal with it, I think. I ended up, I've been using Circle for closed source stuff, or like just stuff that is like going straight out to a website and like isn't an open source module basically that you install with NPM. Travis works pretty great for NPM, and it's just kind of what everyone uses. If you can generate machine packs on the command line, and if you do that, and if you run mp scrub, it'll actually use Travis. So that's what I'd recommend for the actual CI part. For the deployment of it, usually if you're going to push to a production branch or deploy branch, that's better than just having it every time you push to master going to production, right? Because oftentimes you'll break things.
All right. Jonas Koof is asking, Sails.js versus Meteor. What are the advantages of both?
Cool. So Meteor is doing something that's, I think, a lot more ambitious, right? I think that they're trying to take the front-end problem and solve that, as well as the back-end problem at the same time. I think that the front-end is very complicated, and that's all we're going to be doing in a few years, because the back-end is going to be completely commoditized and solved for us and using tools like you just saw. So I think that that's the difference in our approaches, is just like how much we're taking off, biting off at a time.
All right. Andres Schiman, I think I'm spelling it right. Andres Schiman is asking, what exactly is Treeline.io?
So it's a product that is effectively kind of like an IDE that lets you compile Sails applications. So you build your routes, you build your models, but instead of writing code, you're doing it in a drag and drop UI. It's free for open source projects, and for private projects, we're going to come up with the pricing model for that is like as effective as we can. Basically, we have to find a way to sponsor the open source work that we're doing, and that's our plan. So the other part of it is it's not a hosting system, right? What it is like in the same way you might use like Photoshop to build vector graphics and then spit out like PNG files. That's like the PNG files are like the code, and the vector graphics are like Treeline basically. You build them in Treeline. Same thing for like MIDI, right? In music, and then you spit out the MP3. Same idea.
Yeah. All right. Richard is asking, do you have any kind of Sails console?
Like a REPL?
Yeah, you mean like the Django console or the...
So that's one of the very first templates that we're building into Treeline.
Yeah,
so
command line interface, I think it's asking.
Command line interface.
Yeah.
Well, so like Django console or like Django admin is like a scaffold. So being able to have a form that gets generated and being able to have that, I think, so you can run Sails console on the command line and you'll get a REPL that you can use to just check on your data. There's also a few different projects that generate scaffolds from Sails apps already. In Treeline, you'll be able to do that in kind of like a single click sort of deal, and then be able to edit it with that circuit editor you saw.
All right, cool. How can I call error templates from a controller?
Error templates?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you can use those custom responses in the API responses folder, and you can actually add your own, right? Like not enough funds or something. If someone's trying to buy something, they don't have enough cash on their card. Those functions, those responses, they can actually do whatever you want, and one of those things might be serving an error page.
All right. jQuery Geek is asking, why should I use Sails.js instead of just going ahead with Express?
Well, I think that sort of when you're using Sails, you are using Express, right? You're basically you're committing to a structure. So you're saying that I'm going to put things in a way that other developers will know like kind of what to expect when they go to my project. Express was never designed to be like the end-all be-all solution for how you're going to structure things. It's a really awesome, fast, effectively like a middleware stack and then core engine runtime for your server, built on top of a really fast engine that is Node.js. So Sails is just kind of like the practical framework layer on top of that to let you do stuff, especially for large projects, right? Like, once you start to get multiple models, like for instance, Express doesn't actually have models because it's designed to let you kind of pick that and then build it yourself. I've talked to the guys from Express, in particular Doug, and I think we're both on the same page as far as where we see the future of this going, and it's that you ought to be able to piece apart modules and frameworks any way you like, and you ought to be able to customize stuff. So if you don't want real-time in Sails, you just turn it off. If you don't want models in Sails, you just turn that off already as it is. If you don't want Express in Sails, you'll be able to turn that off pretty soon too.
Great, cool. Sorry. Any yeoman generator? That question is from Diego Franja.
There is, I think, a couple. I have not used them for Sails. There is a great one for machine packs out there. And you can also use the Sails command line tool itself. Just run Sails new. Or you can actually use any custom generator that's built into Sails. Or you can write your own generator. Also, the Sane stack has some pretty cool generators if you're using Ember that you should definitely check out.
Cool. Lost in the GC, garbage collector. That's an awesome nick. Lost in the garbage collector. He's asking, can you compare Rails full stack to Sails.js? Is Sails.js a replacement for Ember or a full stack dev toolset?
Definitely not a replacement for Ember. It is a solution to the problem of what happens when I submit a form and where am I going to get my data. So if you're going to use Ember, you're still going to use Ember. If you're going to use Angular, you're still going to use Angular. React, you're going to use React. If you're going to use jQuery, you're going to use jQuery. If you're going to hotwire a toaster, you're going to hotwire a toaster. But at some point, it's going to talk to the cloud, and that's when Sails takes over.
Great, awesome. All right, next question. Are there any plans to get any investors? I'm kind of scared Meteor will stomp Sails because I hate Meteor.
I mean,
I didn't ask that question. Someone else asked it. I think it's Andres from Germany.
okay, so Meteor is again, they're picking off a huge problem, right? They're trying to solve the front end problem, and this and it's bigger. I think it's a much bigger problem. And as anyone here who's worked on a front end app before knows, it's pretty tricky. We're trying to solve a different problem. We're trying to solve it to a different level, though, right? We're trying to take the back end and we're going to eliminate it altogether as far as something that you have to do, because you ought to be focused on the front end. You ought to be focused on the user experience. We're JavaScript people. This is our brave new world where you don't have to mess with that anymore. It's really exciting. So that's what I'm trying to solve. I'm not going anywhere until that's solved, even if I'm picking up toothpicks off the ground and eating those. So if that helps give you confidence, it'll definitely happen.
All right. For anybody wondering how they can ask through Twitter, just go to the Mike R. McNeil Twitter account. It's right down here, Mike R. McNeil, or I am Platzi. Send to either of those. I'm gonna see him. All right. Yorin is wondering, are we discussing Sails or Treeline at the moment?
So Treeline and Sails are sort of the same sort of deal, right? Sails is everything that we've been working on for the last 3 years. And it's not just me, it's the core team as well. Scott, who's here, and Cody, who's back at home. And also Earl, who's back in Austin, and Rachel, who's here somewhere. So we're working on this together. Treeline is, again, if you think of Sails as a preview, right? Like a way to look at a picture, then Treeline is like Photoshop, sort of, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Jamil is asking, did you, Mike, do all of this alone? Did you develop the entire Sailsjs framework?
So the very first version, such as it was, yeah, totally. But since then, there's been a huge number of contributors, plus the people that we worked with over a long period of time on different projects, and also, there's a few standout folks who've also been helping kind of manage all of the issues and let us know if there's a pattern amongst them, because it's been hard maintaining it with especially early on. It's getting a lot better now, especially I think just the quality of the contributions we've seen over the last year have been fantastic. It's really awesome.
All right. Are the database connections in Sails persistent, or do they drop on every request?
The connections in Sails are completely up to the adapter. So the core adapters, and the ones I can remember offhand right now, I can tell you exactly how they work, are MySQL and Postgres. Both of those maintain a configurable connection pool. So you can kind of have as many as you like. You can make that pool as big as you want or as small as you want as part of the adapter configuration. And then so basically what happens is every time you try to talk to the database, the adapter says, hey, have I got any connections in my pool here? And then it looks around and it's like, yep, got a connection. Yep. Or if it doesn't, it's like, I'll spin a new one up. And it says, hey, MySQL, give me a connection. Gets a connection, hold on to it. And that's one of those things that's a trade-off between space, like memory, and then performance and time. Because you don't want to have so many connections that your shit blows up, but you also want to actually have connections at the ready. So that's what the pool's for.
All right. Several people are asking about how to use Sails.js with Handlebars.
Cool. So there's actually a project called Extensio, which is a CMS for Sails that has done a lot of tooling around this. But you can take including Handlebars, any consolidate supported view engine, which is quite a mouthful, but basically the story there is TJ Holloway Chuck, same haircut, cooler face, darker hair. He made Consolidate to work with Jade, because some people like that, which I totally respect. I'm not into it myself. EJS, Handlebars, all these different kinds of view engines, and then you can plug them in as you like. So just give it a quick search and you'll find it. Otherwise, I would point you in the direction of Loic from Extensio, because he's done a bunch of work here in Hugo.
Great. I've seen this question a lot. Amit Adnan is asking, is it possible to have two methods, post and get, on a single route?
Yes.
How?
So can we clarify the question?
Can what?
Can we clarify it a little bit more?
Yeah, how do I create a route, a URL in Sails.js that supports both post and get variables?
Gotcha. So a route's just like a label, right? It's what's inside the route that matters, which sounds really corny. But I mean, basically, just show you really quick. Okay, maybe I have to dig it up here. So the in the routes file, you've got a thing right here, get slash. If you want both of those places, get and post to go to the same place, you just put both. So sorry, I didn't cover that as much as I meant to, because I wanted to get as much done as possible, basically. But the label is on the left, the destination is on the right. Think of it like a terminal where there's a bunch of trains coming in. And the thing on the left is just labels.
All right, great. Let's see, more questions. What's your personal preference? Angular and Ember or server-side rendering?
Both. Can't have one without the other. And the reason I say that, here's what I like to do. I like to make, it's always based on budget to some degree, right, of a project, of how much time you can spend making everything an SPA. I don't think that everything should be an SPA. I think that you need to look at what you need to SEO, like what pages need to be found by Google. Make each of those a server-rendered view for now. I think that's the right answer. Then if none of it really needs to be found by Google, then it's just totally not a big deal. I would still have 2 single-page apps. I would have one that's the logged-out experience and then one that's the logged-in experience. So that way you don't have to think about in your client-side code whether you are logged in or not yet. And it's not asynchronous, right? You don't have to wait. You don't have to take a whole other round trip to the server to ask, hey, am I logged in right now? Okay, I'm logged in. And meanwhile, all your loading spinners are freaking out and all this fake data it's stubbed in there. It's bad. So if you can just have at least 2 single-page apps, one for logged out, one for logged in, that's really good. And then if you need more than that, just make more views.
All right. Loring is saying that he just read that Sails.js is DB agnostic and he's sold and praise the sun.
What?
Because apparently he hates MongoDB. Oh, tech that forced him to use MongoDB. And because Sails.js is DB agnostic, so...
Yeah, I mean, we were making apps with it for customers, so a lot of them didn't want to use Mongo, right? So we had to make it, the very first thing I ever supported was MySQL. And then from there, we just added more things. So we ended up adding Mongo next, then Postgres, then we got to add Redis. And then, since then, there's been a really great, recently a really great Microsoft SQL adapter got released. There's OData, Oracle, RethinkDB, OrientDB. There's a whole bunch. They're on the Sails GitHub repo in the README. And actually, if you want to star our repo, we're really close to 10,000 stars, which is just emotionally important for me. So you should totally do it.
Can you share the link of the repo?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's gonna put the link on the bottom of the video on the tab that says links. Just go there, and you in 2-3 seconds you're gonna see the. Do you put it here?
I think so. Yeah.
Just. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Yeah, it's there. It's Boulder-Dashi.
Boulder-Dashi. Yep.
/Sails.
/Sails.
Yeah, starting right now.
All right, awesome.
Great.
So
all right.
Yeah, cool.
And DevX101 is asking, a little off topic, but what's the timeline for nested population in Waterline ORM?
Cool. So that is a longer discussion, probably going too deep, but high level, there's actually a PDF of sadness that you can look at in the Waterline 2 repo, which I will post a link to right now, under my GitHub /Waterline2. And in here, there is introduction to Waterline2.pdf, which I will just let you guys see for yourself. That explains a lot of the difficulty that we've run into with it. It's not something that we're not going to solve. Basically, when it happens, though, it's going to happen in Waterline 2, I think. At least if it's going to happen cross-adapter, right? As it is in Sails, you can join MySQL tables with MongoDB collections, or you can join, MongoDB collections with other MongoDB collections on other servers, like physical servers. You can join those with Postgres or Redis collections. It's all associations work cross-adapter. That PDF explains a lot more of like when you're sitting in the car by yourself, like in an HEB parking lot, like just trying to figure that out in the middle of the night, and like it explains a little bit more about the limitations that exist with it, and then kind of the plan for the future.
All right. There's a lot of questions asking about books. Is there any book or any place where I can get best practices regarding Sails.js?
There are 2 books being written that I know of. I'm involved with one of them.
And anything else that you may share right now, or would you rather wait until they're done?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say anything at all.
Yeah, so
I don't remember,
let's just say
but
something's coming. Just believe Mike. He's a cool guy. He almost never lies about this kind of stuff. Yeah. In the meantime, sign up for Treeline in treeline.io. If you go there, you can sign up for what's gonna be the future of Sails.js.
Right. And Sails itself will still be, good old Sails. It's just that you'll be able to do everything a lot faster.
Great. The Vex 101 just said that this is very cool and that your team rocks, and that he's building his startup on Sails right now.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
People are still asking about the book. All right. Any other last questions? Let me see. I had a very good question here and I lost it. Where is it? I fell in love with Sailsjs. Yes, we love Sailsjs.
I love you too.
But yeah, this is the question that I wanted you to answer. Why don't you use Bower?
Okay, yeah, Bower. Okay, listen, like anything that Fat does, I'm pretty into, honestly. But Bower is just like, okay, I totally think it's awesome. If you saw what happened with the linker before and how it automatically links stuff in, imagine what happens if you Bower install in here, right? It just starts linking in all this crazy stuff. And then the reason why is because you Bower install, like, let's say jQuery, right? And you get all these files that are not the one thing that you wanted. So I think Bower is great. It's mainly because of that, right? Because of the linker and the way it works right now, it's annoying. Also, I've just gotten so used to copying and pasting that stuff that it would take me a while. I would love to see Bower change that, and at some point when I've got a few minutes, I'd like to see if I could kick around a pull request. But in the meantime.
All right. Batuhan Katirsi is asking, is Sails.js ready for scaling? For scaling.
I think it's good either way. Scaling, yeah. I think it's scale, yeah.
For growing up, for being on the front page of Hacker News like we did with this class.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah.
High five. So Sails is ready for scaling. Yeah, I was trying to think of a terrible metaphor about loose, flappy skin and like being ready to just like fill it up with stuff, but I think it's best not to go that direction.
Yeah, no.
No. Okay, so Sails is, yeah, we covered actually everything that you need to do a production Sails app in this course. On Heroku, if we would have scaled up that little thing to add more front-end servers, there would have been problems because Heroku does not have sticky sessions yet. They've invited us to a private beta, and those of you that are also using Heroku probably have run into this in the past as well. But it's cool, and you can with that you can use it as is. In the meantime, with Heroku, you just have to go into your settings and change the transports for Socket.io to make it work. There's something about that in the 0.11 migration guide, and that's only because Socket.io has changed their strategy a little bit to be instead of downgrading, they upgrade. But there's more about that in there. Also, in our docs on Sailsjs.org, if you go to concepts, deployment, scaling, there's a bunch of stuff that I wrote pretty recently about kind of how scaling works in Sails.
All right, great. Shuge is saying greetings from Switzerland. All right, thank you. Hello. That he has to go to sleep, obviously, because right now in Switzerland,
he's up early.
It's 2 a.m.
Okay, pretty early.
Yeah, so yeah. Andrew Sheeman is asking, can you tell me what that Sails CMS extension was? Examine or something? I can't find it.
You got it. Yeah, it's called Extensio, and there's a number of different CMSs for Node out there that are kind of coming together. Extensio is the only one I've seen that uses Sails to make it be database agnostic.
Can you spell the URL, please?
Yeah, it's extens.io.
Extends.io.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right. So I just shared it to the links. You're gonna see it down there. It says extends.io/extends.io. All right, great. It's 6 a.m. in Pakistan, and there's people. Actually, let's ask that. Where are you guys from? Just let us know. City and country, if you can. Please don't kill the node system. We're gonna do it anyway, so it's fine. All right. Very last question. Let's go for the very last question, and we are over. By the way, this was long, but this was awesome. I love this very last question. Yamid is asking, what is the best small app I can build with Sails.js to learn it very well?
I would say the first thing you should do is, if you look, Google search Sails.js cursors. I've got an example where writing literally no backend code, you can just move a cursor around in real time with other folks. That's pretty cool. You don't have to write any code. I think that the best way to learn Sails right now is to get the concepts. So understand what's happening with routes. Like, start with blueprints, get what's cool about it, then break it down. And I would say look at the activity overlord stuff from Earl Nathan. Longer term, like in the next, if you're interested in really like sticking with this and kind of being a part of what we have going on, I would definitely say take a look at Treeline, because what we're doing there is basically making it so that you can have blueprints for everything. And so being able to kind of build something and then see what the code gets generated from that, I think has been really helpful. I've seen, at least when showing other people.